The 1950s. Austerity, glamour, and the birth of rock and roll. In 1950, children were reading the Eagle comic and listening with mother. Petrol ration had just ended, and we were swinging and jiving to Nat King Cole and Frank Sinatra. 1951. Food was still rationed as the first self-service supermarket opened. The Festival of Britain inspired modern thoughts, but Churchill was back as Prime Minister, and footballers still wore baggy shorts. China invaded Tibet, and Britain was plunged back to war, this time in Korea, with the United Nations on the 38th parallel. The spies Burgess and Maclean defected to Moscow. Atomic bomb testing began to hot up, and so did the Cold War. Freddie Truman, Len Hutton, Ealing Comedies, Al Martino, #1 in the first ever hit parade, Fangio, 5 times world motor racing champion. 1952. As the fog descended upon London, the King was dead. Long live the Queen. 1953. DNA, Crick and Watson, Mount Everest and Edmund Hillary, the coronation of Elizabeth II, watched by millions on the new TV. Hercules bikes, Jaguar sports cars, Dinky Toys and Meccano, the Vulcan bomber, BEA, BOAC, Stanley Matthews, The Death of Stalin, Marlon Brando and I Love Lucy. Timothy Evans, John Christie, Ruth Ellis and Derek Bentley, Albert Pierpoint the hangman, The Death Penalty, Too Innocent, Too Guilty. It was the era of the Hollywood musical, An American in Paris, 7 Brides for 7 Brothers, Showboat, White Christmas, Guys and Dolls, Oklahoma, Carousel, High Society, The King and I, Singing in the Rain, Gigi, South Pacific. But on the dark side, America had to contend with Senator McCarthy and his communist witch hunts and the continuing evil presence of the Ku Klux Klan. In 1954, Britain's occupation in Egypt ended, and the French were defeated in Vietnam by communist forces, a deadly omen for what was to follow in the 1960s. Marilyn Monroe became the darling of Hollywood, and the great British family all went to the seaside for their holiday. Coach trips, warm woolies, deck chairs and Rupert Bear. And cigarettes were healthy and were smoked everywhere. Roger Bannister ran the 4-minute mile, timed in raincoat, stopwatch and clipboard style. It was the golden age of radio comedy. Jimmy Edwards, Tony Hancock and The Goon Show. The Crazy Gang on the new ATV TV channel. 1955. Princess Margaret did not marry her war hero, but Grace Kelly did meet a prince. James Dean became a legend after dying in his car. Hitchcock thrillers, B-movie chillers. Dennis Compton, the Brill Boy star. Bill Haley rocked around the clock in 1954, and when Elvis Presley entered his Heartbreak Hotel in 1956, rock and roll was born. Anthony Eden, in the invasion of the Suez Canal, ended with Britain being caught with its trousers down. Russian tanks rolled into Budapest to reimpose Soviet law. Diplomacy hadn't come far since the end of the war. However, in 1957, the Rome Treaty saw the beginning of the European Community. Harold Macmillan took over as Prime Minister, and we had never had it so good. Lonnie Donegan and Skiffle, Mr Pastry, David Niven, The Bridge over the River Kwai. 1958. The Munich air crash devastated Manchester United's Busby Babes. Mike Hawthorne became the first British Grand Prix champion. Rock and roll stars were now emerging. Jerry Lee Lewis, Cliff Richard and Brenda Lee, Connie Francis, Little Richard, Billy Fury, Chuck Berry, Adam Faith, Tommy Steele and Johnny Ray. Terry Thomas on the screen, Arnold Palmer playing golf, Miles Davis at Newport and Pellé's Brazil winning Sweden. Elizabeth Taylor, Carry On Sergeant, the first Carry On film, The Navy Lark, St Trinian's, Doctor at Large and Dirk Bogart, Tommy Trinder, The Black and White Minstrels, and Sunday Night at the London Palladium. Hopalong Cassidy, Roy Rogers, The Lone Ranger, Zorro, Saturday Morning Pictures, The M1, The First Motorway, 1959, Some Like It Hot, Room at the Top. The 50s ended with the Dalai Lama fleeing Tibet and revolution in Cuba, Fidel Castro and Che. And even with the death of Buddy Holly, rock and roll was here to stay.